Chapter 3. Come on, Case, you've been in there for an hour already. Whitehouse and Corpse waited outside the bathroom impatiently. They had overslept and were running late. Cars was helping Jane in the kitchen preparing a quick breakfast before they headed on. Jane was still pondering about what Cars said last night, and whenever he wasn't looking, she gave him odd looks. Case, if you're not out of there in the next 5 seconds, I'll break this door down, threatened Corpse. At last the door opened, and Casey emerged in his dressing gown with a towel wrapped around his head. There's no need to shout, he said, and went to get dressed. Corpse quickly ran into the bathroom and slammed the door in Whitehouse's face. I might as well wash my hair in the kitchen sink, he grumbled, and stormed off downstairs. But when he entered the kitchen, Whitehouse was surprised to see a well-laid spread on the kitchen table, and Cars and Jane were already busy helping themselves to tea and toast. Hang hair washing, Whitehouse thought, realizing he was quite hungry. Casey and Corpse soon joined them, but by now they were already behind time. I haven't been late before since before Betty got stolen. I never want to go through that calamity again, worried Case. You were once late? Carr said, with a tone of surprise in his voice. He was, chuckled Whitehouse, buttering some bread for his day's sandwiches. I remember it quite well. It had been some months since Cars got his new job, but it came to the attention of Whitehouse that he had not been seen that often, and whenever he could, he would treat visitors like a sticky toffee wrapper that was blown in your face on a blustery day. This sounded very odd, and not like his old friend at all. But today, Whitehouse's mind was focused on something else. Casey was late for work. They were meant to run a long afternoon train, and they were instructed they would have to have the engine ready by 12 o'clock. It was now 11:15, and still there was no signs of Casey. When he finally turned up, it was nearly 11:15. Wretched alarm clock wouldn't go off, Casey grumbled as he quickly got the fire lit and started throwing spirit-soaked blocks into the firebox. Well, at least you got a good sleep in, Whitehouse said cheerfully. Not when you have a special like this, you won't, came the reply. Whitehouse decided to let Casey be and went to get a new sack of coal that arrived for them that morning. The bag was heavier than usual, and he had to drag it along the ground to where Casey sat next to Betty. I hope she steams well today, Whitehouse said as he shoveled the coal into Betty's bunker. From the looks of this coal, I think it looks a bit damp. Oh, she'll be all right, won't you, Bets? Casey smiled as he patted the engine's cab. While you're filling her up on coal, I'll go and check and see if we've any passengers waiting, Whitehouse said helpfully. Will do. While you're there, get us a cuppa, please. I skipped breakfast on the way here. Whitehouse agreed and headed on up the line. As Whitehouse walked into the station yards, he was unaware that both he and his friend were being watched. Bernard sat by his office window, peering down at the railway club through a pair of binoculars. His mind was thinking over as to how he could make this little railway club go bust. But his mind was also focusing on the business itself. Since Cars was made second in command, the progress of production had improved somewhat. It was all Cars' plan, really. By providing skilled knowledge and eye-catching forms of advertising, the company was starting to draw in the attention of the public. Grinder and Gears had improved their skills and had proven to be top workers. They would arrive for work in a cheery manner and would set to work with no means of grumbling. For Cars, he made his work the first main focus of his life. The second main focus was a young secretary that Bernard hired. Cars had taken a soft spot for her. When work finished, they would often walk home together, and often go to the cinema as a treat. But every time they walked past the railway club, Cars would always sneer at it, and often spoke bad of it. Mr. Bernard, sir? Ah, Cars, come in, my lad. Cars came in and sat opposite Bernard. After accepting a cigar, the two chatted about the day's work and the progress of the workers. Then Bernard brought up a topic. Now, Cars, you've been with me for a few months now, and your work has been outstanding. Thank you, sir. And I was wondering if you cared to help me out with a, He looked around in case anyone heard. Little project I'm working on, he finished in a whisper. What sort of project do you have in mind, sir? Well, I've concocted a new type of fuel that will make others completely worthless to other vehicles. I've tested on a few cars, and the performance is amazing. Smooth running and quiet engines. I want to know if you could help me set up a sort of petrol brewery where we can make this stuff in mass production. So let me get this straight. You want me to help make black market petrol? I wouldn't call it black market, more of a new development in production. Who knows? This stuff could be worth millions upon trillions by the time we show its potential. Has it been granted by the directors? Cars asked suspiciously. Oh, yes, Bennett lied. They thought it wouldn't work, but we'll show them, won't we? All right, then, Cars said. Now, what's the first thing to start off with? Cripes, look at the time, gasped Cars when he finished. We need to be on our way to the club. I'll sort out the dishes later, said Whitehouse as he got his coat on. I still don't see what making petrol has anything to do with Betty getting stolen, Jane said. It'll all become clear in due course, Casey reassured, but that's for later on. We've got work to do. The five made their way up to the club. Thankfully, they arrived just in time and were soon busy getting the locos in line ready for the spring season. As Whitehouse and Corpse were busy spraying weed killer on the tracks, they didn't notice Grinder and Gears watching them from nearby. They're at it again, grumbled Grinder. Busy messing on the little railway as they do all the time, every day of the year. If only it was like that back in the good old days when there was nothing but weeds and brambles, Gears commented. They go to all strengths to make sure those trains keep running. Casey had got the fire lit and had pressure up in record time, with only 5 minutes to spare. He was soon coupled up to the coaches, and he and Whitehouse made their way up the line to the station. The passengers all waited patiently on the platform, and as soon as Betty stopped, they hurried to get a seat. Whitehouse was nearly knocked off his feet at the pace that they were walking. It was lucky for him that he had a seat to himself at the back of the train on a little wooden truck. After collecting the tickets and gave out the safety procedures, they were off. Quite literally. No sooner had the guard's truck left the platform, there came a crunch, and the train jerked and stopped. It didn't take long to find the fault. A long, thick bramble had been collected by one of the coaches' axles and jammed itself in the points. It took some time to fix the problem, but by the time they were on their way again, a crowd of people had started to form again at the platform. The passengers waiting after the first lot grew tired of waiting and left crossly. I never had this sort of problem before, sighed Casey as he helped load the next lot of passengers. If this keeps up, people will think this is a bad railway and we'll have to close. I just hope it doesn't come to that, hoped Whitehouse. The next time round was better, but at the steep part of the line, there was trouble. They just started the climb and just made it to the top when Betty slowed to a stop. The heavy load needed a lot of steam, and Betty had nearly used up all of hers on the hill. There wasn't even enough for the journey back. If we don't mind waiting for a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we shall resume our journey, Whitehouse informed the passengers. It was the woman at the back who started. If this is what they call a reliable attraction, then I want my money back. Same here, called another passenger. I wasted £2 for a half trip. Some place this is. We've got to think of something, Whitehouse said to Casey. There's only one option, sighed Casey, and he rolled up his sleeves. It's the only way we can get these people back to the station. Whitehouse sighed and nodded. He too rolled up his sleeves. Now, what do you think they did? They pushed the train along. The passengers stayed as they were. They paid for a train ride, and they saw to it that they did. Poor Casey and Whitehouse had to work hard pushing the heavy train to the station. When they reached the platform, they were completely worn out, their clothes drenched in sweat. At least we can wait until the pressure builds up, Casey gasped through deep breaths. Excuse me, are you going to be long? Came a voice. The boys looked up and saw more passengers had turned up looking at train ride. There was no reply from the two, as they had fallen in a heap of exhaustion. In the end, 2 other members of the club took over the train while Casey and Whitehouse went to take a break. Their calamity was found to be entertaining to the young mechanics Grinder and Gears, who watched the two whilst taking a tea break from their work. Dear, oh dear, aren't they in a fluster? Chuckled Grinder. Wouldn't see us being overworked like them, agreed Gears. We've enough work to suit us fine. There you are, you two, Carr said, walking up to them. I have a task that myself and the boss wants you to sort out. We need you to gather the following materials, and look sharp. I want no slacking in this business, understand? Yes, sir, the 2 boys said. Well, get on with it, Cars barked out. We need these items at the double. Move! The 2 boys scampered off to collect the items. Bernard walked up next to Cars and smiled. At least I don't have to worry about those 2 slacking off work, at least, he chuckled. There's one thing that we don't have, though. He brought up a copy of the plans for the still. We need something that would drive the mixing shaft. I've spoken to the lads in the workshops, but we haven't got any engines with that sort of power. Carl thought about this. Then he gazed at Betty steaming away from the station. She was pulling a lot of heavy coaches and showed not a single sign of strain. I think I might have the answer, he said to Bernard. And also, it'll cause havoc for that railway too. Kill two birds with one stone, as they say. When Grinder and Gears get back, tell them to meet me outside the railway club half an hour after closing time. As Bernard made his way back up to the office, Cars looked again at the railway and sniggered to himself. The day's work was going well, and soon the railway was ready for the spring runs. The five had just finished clearing away their equipment and were having a late lunch by the workshops. Jane thought she had waited long enough and asked the boys about how Betty got stolen. The last bit was just getting to that, actually, informed Cars. You see, in order for this petrol to be made, Bernard needed a strong source of power that could drive a shaft, which will mix the concoction of chemicals to make it. I suggested we used Betty after I saw her working nearby. How did she come to steal her anyway? Asked Corpse. I never got the full explanation. Cars nodded over to Whitehouse. I'm sure Whitehouse will fill you in on that, he said, smiling. Chapter 4. The others looked at Whitehouse and waited. Whitehouse remained quiet. Well, go on, Whitehouse, urged Jane. What happened? This happened on the same day, Whitehouse began, rubbing the back of his head. After resuming our tasks for that day, we managed to get the day's run finished with only a few mishaps. Myself and Casey were just putting Betty away for the night. It had been a busy day for the two, and by the time the last passenger left the station, they were worn out. 3 times we were brought to a standstill today, wheezed Casey. And each time we had to push the whole train back. Whew. There's something not right about Betty's feed pipe, and no mistake. I'll have to ask one of the lads in the workshops to see what he thinks about it. If she gives up the ghost, then we're stuck without an engine. If only wee Bobby hadn't gone for his overhaul, we would have been fine. Anyway, we better make the most of it, I suppose. They had just begun cleaning out Betty's tubes when Casey got a message on his phone. I need to head off here, he said hurriedly. I need to look over plans for something. Could you lock up before you go, Whitehouse? Here's the keys to the sheds. Yeah, that's no problem. You can trust me, said Whitehouse, and resumed his work as Casey made his way up the road. Casey was just passing the station when he saw a car and trailer parked by the local loading ramps. I wonder why that's there, he thought to himself. Perhaps one of the members has taken one of their engines home to get work done to it. Possible, I suppose. As Casey made his way up the road, 3 figures emerged from the car and scampered up the line quietly. It was very quiet with only Whitehouse at the sheds, so he thought he turned on the shed's radio to keep himself amused while he did his work. You're listening to Radio Replay, the radio station that repeats the much-loved classics over and over again. With the noise of the radio, Whitehouse didn't hear the rustling of some bushes nearby, nor had he heard the yelp of someone who had just sat on a bramble. A head popped up with tree branches and leaves over his head. Keep quiet, hissed Cars. We're supposed to be incognito. This place is covered in brambles, complained Gears. Ow! He yelped again. Whitehouse heard him that time. He swung round to where the yelp came from and listened carefully. Hello? He called out. Is anyone there? The 3 held their breaths and didn't dare move. A fox's cry for her cubs came from somewhere nearby, and Whitehouse chuckled. My mind must be playing games with me, he muttered, and resumed his work cleaning the tubes. Okay, this is what we'll do, exclaimed Cars to Grinder and Gears. While me and Gears sort out our, pal here, you, Grinder, see to the engine. Right, move out. Tiptoeing quietly, the 3 edged their way towards Whitehouse. By now, he had finished cleaning the tubes and was about to move Betty into her place in the sheds. Then it happened all at once. There was a shout, and then something was thrown over Whitehouse's head. There was a struggle, and then something came to him as a shocking pain at the back of his head. Then everything went black. Whitehouse fell to the ground unconscious next to the line side. "Sorry, mate," Cars couldn't help mutter. "Nothing personal, just business. Right, wheel that tin kettle over to the ramps and let's get it moved to the courtyards." Straining with the weight, Grinder and Gears wheeled Betty out of the shed's area. "It's okay for you," grumbled Grinder to Whitehouse's knocked-out body. "You get the easy job." After what felt like an eternity, the three got Betty secured to the trailer and headed back to base. Bernard was waiting for them when they arrived. He did not look pleased. What is the meaning of this, Cars?" he spluttered on seeing Betty on the trailer. "Bringing a railway locomotive on this site? I hope you're thinking of scrapping it. That's all these things are good for, and—" He noticed the lettering on the tender. M.E.S. Model Engineers Society. "That's that railway's club engine, isn't it?" "It sure is," smiled Cars. "It's all been worked out. After seeing this engine performing earlier, I thought it would be useful to power the shaft for the petrol brewery, not forgetting that this engine is the only working loco in the whole club." "Is that so?" Bernard smirked. "He's right, sir," Grinder said. "We heard that brat Casey said so." "Well, looks like things are looking bright for us. We shall start the procedure on getting this engine fitted to the shaft in the morning, and then we can... Bernard cursed under his breath. Anything wrong, sir?" asked Gears. "Just one little hiccup in your plan, Cars. Who can drive it? I can't even operate a can opener, let alone power up a steam engine." "Oh, don't worry about this, sir. I've got it all thought of," grinned Cars. "But we'll have to wait until tomorrow until I reveal on how we're going to get this engine rolling. And soon, things are going to run smoothly, rest assured." An early morning fog rolled into the railway club the next morning. It was cold, too. A gust of cold wind brought Whitehouse round from his sleep. What had happened to him last night? He could feel a pounding pain over the back of his head and put his hand over it to soothe it. The pain got worse by his hand's impact, and he withdrew it away. A small patch of blood was seen on his hand. What had happened here? Whitehouse tried to stand up, but his legs were like jelly, and he had to lean on the fence post to steady himself. Had he been here the whole night? Then he remembered. Someone else was here last night. But who? He was just thinking this over when his eyes clamped on an empty spot where Betty once stood. It seems as if all the life had been knocked out of Whitehouse for at least 5 minutes before he moved at all. He had one job, just one job to do, and he had gone and mucked it up in less than, well, however long it took to clean those tubes. What could he do? If any of the members found out, he'd be kicked out of the railway for good, and forever would have a bad reputation to all the other railway clubs. What day was it? Sunday. Good. The railway doesn't open again till Monday, so he has 24 hours to find Betty and to get her back safely. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed help. Whitehouse grabbed his mobile phone from his pocket and dialed Casey's number. Casey was still in bed when his phone rang. After some failed attempts to ignore the constant ringing, he answered it. "Hello?" "Case, it's Whitehouse." "Whitehouse?" Casey looked at his clock. 5:30 in the morning. "I'm sure you have a good reason to wake me up at this early hour. Betty's gone." "Gone? Gone where?" "That's just it. I don't know. Something happened here last night and Betty's now missing." All right, calm down. I'm on my way over now." Casey quickly got dressed and hurried to the railway club. When he arrived, he found Whitehouse in a sorry state and panicking like anything. "I just don't know what happened," Whitehouse kept saying. "I just finished cleaning the tubes, then someone whacked me at the back of the head. I'm going to get the sack for this." "Look, calm down and let's take these things one at a time," reassured Casey. "Now, where were you when this happened?" Whitehouse looked round. "Right here. Betty was just right here in front of me." Casey had a look at the ground. There were signs of a struggle, and more footprints could be seen. He said as he pondered the matter. By the looks of these prints, I'd say that there was more than one person here, and... The car! His mind cast back to the night before, and seeing that car in the trailer parked by the loading ramps. Car? What car? Asked Whitehouse. But before Casey could reply, there came a strange hooting sound. What on earth? Exclaimed Casey. From around the corner, a strange machine emerged. It had the front end of an American-style chopper bike, what looked like a garden shed in the middle, and two large wheels at the back. The driver smiled as he flicked his sunglasses off and revved the engine before pulling up alongside Casey and Whitehouse. Not bad, is it? What do you look like? Said Whitehouse. I could say the same for you, chuckled Corpse as he climbed down. Rough night for you, was it? You look like a truck hit you. Had one too many the night before, eh? Eh? Corpse, what is that thing? Asked Casey quickly before Whitehouse retorted angrily. Oh, this? It's a prototype for a new vehicle I'm designing. Who needs rest stops when you have one with you all the time when on the road? So, that's an outhouse you have in the back there? Asked Whitehouse, pointing to the shed. Well, yeah, but that was all that was handy at the moment. But the final product won't look like that. I mean, it'll be more box-shaped and it'll have a toilet in it, but it'll also have beds and cupboards, and so you've pretty much made a prototype for a caravan. Well, yeah, but nobody has made a bike version out of one. Overlooking the subject entirely, what brings you here, Corpse? Asked Casey. Oh, I saw you passing by here in a hurry and thought something was up at the club. Like a fire or something. Nothing like that there, was it? Worse, as a matter of fact, admitted Casey, and he and Whitehouse explained the situation to him. But we might have a head start on the search, Casey said. But first, you need to see to Whitehouse's injury while I check something over by the station. He could seriously do with some medical aid. Cars had arrived early that morning to carry out Phase 2 of his plan. Betty had been safely stored in an old shed in the courtyard of the MCS. A pipe had been inserted into her chimney which drew out the heat to feed into the tank nearby. A makeshift rolling road was also fitted underneath her. To ensure that an explosion would not occur while Betty was in the operation room, an extra wall was made so that it would split the room into two halves. The still had been designed in secrecy, so to stop anyone from copying it, Bernard had most of it covered up, with only the tank and a few open vats exposed. It was discovered that one of Betty's feed pipes had a hole in it, so Cars was busy making sure it was steam tight and made sure that enough heat would be made. He had just finished working on it when Bernard arrived, beaming like anything. It won't be long until the first drops of that petrol will be made. I tell you, it will make me rich beyond riches. Just you, eh? Carr said sternly. Well, I'm sure there'll be a little something to keep you going, I'm sure. Now then, this idea of yours to get this, vehicle to work, what's to be done about it? The driver is on his way, I assure you, replied Cars. We're pretty much ready to go, so as soon as he arrives, I'll set him to work. Good, and see to it that he does. I'm off to see about the marketing plans for this petrol, and we'll be back later this evening to see the progress. Remember, if anything goes wrong, it's your responsibility to sort it out. Yes, sir. Cars put his finger and thumb to his mouth and whistled. Grinder and Gears hurried in. You wanted us, sir? I'm going out to get the driver for this machine. Make sure everything is in working order by the time I return. Or else. The two understood, and set about their work. Cars had just walked out of the gates to the MCS when he spotted Casey looking around the station. What perfect timing! Cars chuckled and walked casually over. Casey spotted him. Cars! Am I glad to see you? I need your help. Why? What's the matter? Cars said, acting surprised. During the night, somebody crept into the club, knocked Whitehouse out, and stole our engine, Betty. I was hoping to find something here that would link her to her disappearance here at the station. Oh, I didn't know, Cars interrupted. I thought you guys wouldn't mind. Mind? Mind what? Many thoughts went through Cars's brain that second, trying to think of a way to lure Casey to help him get Betty working. Then decided to tell the truth. Well, sort of. I borrowed Betty to help a friend out. A friend? Yes, he has a kind of old generator that is powered by a rolling road, and as his car was unsuitable for the task, I wondered if I could borrow Betty for the task. So you came here during the night, knocked Whitehouse out, and stole her, is that it? Whoa, I didn't see Whitehouse at all last night. The shed was already opened, and nobody was about. I knew that you guys didn't want her to be stolen, so I moved her to a safe location, to where she'd be out of harm's way. And Whitehouse's injury? Again, I didn't see him at all last night. For all we know, he could have done that while at home or something. I don't know. Is he all right? Yes, he's fine. Corpse is seeing to his injuries now. But enough of that. Where is Betty? Oh, I'll take you to her. Like I said, she's out of harm's way and in safe hands. And you fell for it? Well, didn't know at the time what he had taken her for, did I? Cars checked his watch. Right, that's enough for now, guys. There's still a bit more work that needs to get sorted out till the next season run. We'll continue this topic later on this evening. Chapter 5. Jane watched the day go by from the clubroom window. The whole story of the search of the lost engine had interested her greatly, and she yearned to know more about what happened next, like a reader eagerly waiting for the next installment in a series of books. But then she remembered that somewhere in these tales of events, something had scarred her friends greatly. She could understand Cars's decision to turn to the MCS, but that didn't trigger any nerves when the boys told her it. There was something else that happened. Something that they were trying to hold back. But what? She had to know sooner or later. Her eyes then focused on Casey and Whitehouse busy collecting a line of coaches for a test run up the line. She knew that somewhere inside their heads, the answer to her question was there, waiting to be told. At last, it was coming up to the evening tea break. Casey and Corpse had taken their teas into the workshop while they worked on a new coupling for the guardsman. Cars and Whitehouse sat on the benches outside the clubroom, discussing the events that was to come later in the year. "Fancy a top-up, lads?" Jane asked, teapot in hand. Yeah, I'll have one, thanks." "Cream scone?" Yeah, thanks." Jane smiled as she went in to fetch the plate. "There's chocolate cake in here if you want a slice of that instead. Or biscuits. You can't have tea without biscuits." A number of plates were then presented to the two, each one filled with a different confectionery. "Are you feeling all right, Jane?" Cars asked. "You're not your normal self this evening." Jane sighed as she set the plates down and sat on the ground opposite them. "I'm just curious as to know what happened with you guys back then. You're all hiding something that brings discomfort whenever you look back at your adventure. Just what exactly is it you're hiding from me?" The two said nothing. Jane hesitated. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I know this is not an easy thing for you two to talk about, but I just wanted to know," she said quietly. It was Whitehouse who broke the silence. "I understand what you're trying to say, Jane. Trust me, I've been in events like this before, and often never got the answer I needed. We can gladly tell you about what happened, but I think it's best that we wait for the others to hear it too, as some of the events that happened, they don't actually know about it." "Know about what?" came a voice. Kissing corpses just came back to leave in their mugs. Jane was getting really anxious to know about what happened in the mystery, informed Cars. "I think she can't contain your enthusiasm," he chuckled. "That explains your little picnic," Casey said, eyeing the plates of food still on the ground. "I'm sorry about this," Jane said, picking up the plates and putting them back into the clubroom. "It's just one of those things, you know. I just really want to know what happened." "Perfectly natural," Corpse said, taking a seat. "I was like that with Whitehouse when I tried to ask him about the night Betty was stolen." "Now don't be such a big baby. You want that cut to heal, don't you? Not if you keep hammering that disinfectant on, it won't. Ow! Ah, look, just give me it here. I'll do it myself." "Sheesh, what's biting you? You're not your normal high-spirited self today." "'Cause I'm still recovering after being knocked out last night. I have a bleeding gash on the back of my head that would fulfill a vampire's dream that now hurts more than ever than it did before. And you're telling me I'm not acting like myself?" "I only asked." Whitehouse cringed painfully as he dabbed his wounded head with the soaked cloth. "So do you have any memory as to who it was?" "I can't quite say. All I know is that there was more than one. I'll know that for sure." "Well, Casey said he might be onto something, so listen, rest up for a bit, and then we'll go and see what he's found out. I'll go get you something to eat." Whitehouse nodded as he continued to dab the cloth on his head. "Well, I'll have to admit, you fixed her up good and proper," Casey said as he climbed out from under Betty. "It's a pity you didn't come work for us. We could sure use a fellow with your skills like that." It's nothing really," Carr said, flattered. He showed Casey the generator by the dividing wall, and explained what he had done to set the whole thing up. "So, would it be alright if we could borrow your engine to help us get this baby back to life?" Well, I don't know about this. But seeing as the line's closed today, I'm sure we'll let this one slide. Just this once. It'll take a while to get the pressure up, but I'll need water and coal to keep her lit. I'm on to that now, Cars called back. He signalled Grinder and Gears to come over to him. Get the hose and grab some coal from their station yards, and be quick about it, he added sharply. This run is set to commence as soon as he gets that engine fully steamed up. It won't be the engine he'll be getting steamed up with all this work, grumbled Grinder. Chin up, said Gears brightly. At least we're getting paid for extra labour. Wait, we get paid? They passed Bernard as they head up towards the rowing club. Has Cars got the steam brat to fire this thing? We're just gathering the essential fuel it needs to run. Then we can begin. Excellent, Bernard smiled as he happily lit up his sixth cigar that morning. He was in a celebratory mood. How are you feeling now? Fit enough to roam God's earth again? I'm fine, Corpse. A bit dizzy, but nothing serious. Now, we better see what Casey's found out about Betty's disappearance. Where'd you say he was heading? He said he was going to search the station. I have a feeling he's seen something that he wants to check out. Right. We better get going then. Whoa, whoa! Whitehouse yelped as he lost his balance on the steps and toppled to the ground. I think I'll stable you as far as the station, until the earth stops spinning in your mind, Corpse said, helping Whitehouse up. Come on! Hurry up before anyone sees us! Hissed Grinder. I'm doing the best I can, panted Gears, shoving large shovelfuls of coal into a bucket. Why do I always get the dirty job? I'm getting more dirty than you throwing that coal about. Stop blabbering and keep... Hey! What are you doing with our coal? Whitehouse and Corpse surrounded the corner and spotted the two. Quick! Leg it! Yelled Grinder, and he and Gears jumped the fence and sprinted up the road to the MCS, dropping bits of coal along the way. Those thieving little... Whitehouse fumed. First I'm going to get in trouble for losing Betty, and now I've lost the club of their coal supplies. Could this day get any worse for me? Don't fret about it, cuz. There's still plenty left in the bunker, so you'll be all right. Corpse then noticed that Casey wasn't in the yard like he said he would be. Where had he gone? Give him a ring and see if he's got any trace on Betty's whereabouts, he said. Ah, good. You got the coal then? Right. Put over there and leave the rest to Casey. He knows what to do. Casey looked at the coal and then to Cars, Grinder and Gears. He said. Anything wrong? It's just that, would you mind turning your backs, please? You what? Spluttered Grinder. You're only lighting an engine, not taking a leak. There's a fast loco firing method that was passed down to me, and I promised that I wouldn't show anyone. So would you mind? Do as he says, hissed Cars to the two, and they all did so. This better be bloody worth it in the end, muttered Gears. Next thing you know, he'll be wanting a nice comfy chair and a glass of... Okay, we're all set. The three turned round and were amazed to find Betty in full steam, ready to roll. Grinder and Gears' mouths dropped in surprise. Splendid! Splendid! Cars cheered, clapping his hands loudly. Bravo, my friend! Now, shall we make a start on the powering? Yes, of course. Just let me fill our tank up with water, and we'll get started. Yes, it won't be long now, Cars thought. He left Casey for a split second and gave Bernard, who was keeping watch from his office window, the signal that the plan was underway. Bernard returned the signal with glee and quickly phoned up the dealerships to begin his dealing. Anything? No, there isn't a good signal here. We'll find him later on. He's probably on the trail of Betty now as we speak. Talking of trails... Corpse's eyes noticed the trail of coal left by the two thieves. I wonder what those two wanted with all that coal anyway. I could have sworn I've seen them somewhere before, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Well, it's near winter, and what with the prices of coal these days... Unless they... No. What? I was just thinking that, but I could be wrong. Go on. You don't think they stole the coal for something else, do you? Supposing they needed it for something other than warmth. Something like a steam engine. You could be onto something there, agreed Corpse. Do you think they'd be the ones that attacked you last night? I don't know, but there was only one way to find out. Come on, hang on. They've got a good head start of us. What we need is transport. We haven't got any transport, Corpse, and I hardly think my bike has enough room for the two of us. Funny you should mention bikes, smiled Corpse, and nodded his cousin to the sheds. Whitehouse stared. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. No way, I'm not riding that monstrosity. Do you have any other ideas?" It was the ride that Whitehouse definitely would not forget. The bike roared out of the sheds area and rocketed past the station. The noise was nearly as awful as the exhaust that fumed from the back where the passenger seat was. "What did you fuel this thing with? It smells like a farmyard back here." "Oh, I've been experimenting with different types of fuels," Corpse called back. "The best out of the lot was strong enough to propel this bike at the speed she's going." "And where's the fuel tank located? I don't see one back here." "It's right in front of you," Corpse informed. "But I don't see anything apart from this." Then Whitehouse understood why the outhouse was here, and noticed some pipes leading down to the engine. "Oh my!" Whitehouse wrenched over the side and heaved heavily. "I read up somewhere that some folks use this method, but I wasn't so sure it worked or not. You okay back there?" But his cousin was beyond words at this time, for he was going a very off shade of green. "It was a very unpleasant journey, I could tell you," Whitehouse said. It was starting to get dark and was getting closer to closing time. "I'm sorry about this, Jane," Kara said, noticing her disappointed look. "But don't worry, your question is very close to being answered, but we'll have to wait till later on while we're at Whitehouse's getting our things. You don't mind, do you, Whitehouse?" "Not at all," Whitehouse said. "I'll go and close up the workshops." "I tell you what, Jane, even I'm starting to get interested in all this," whispered Casey. "Even I don't remember some of it." "I know," agreed Jane, but she still wondered as to what was to come.